Now, this raises some very interesting questions for the Montreal Canadiens, with trade rumors running wild. One article has linked Montreal to a 6'1" young left-hand shot center with a great faceoff percentage out of the Utah Mammoth. We got to discuss this recent article and how that could impact Montreal's center situation moving forward. Plus, we got a big update from the NHL on the new tiers for offer sheeting and how it makes offer sheets even more likely and how that impacts Montreal as well. Finally, another free agent name that has been making the rounds once again out of Dallas, and Matt Duchene. A lot of big things to talk about on this episode of Habs Digest, and we're going to start with Duchene, Jesse, because look, this is a player we've mentioned before. Of course, he's an unrestricted free agent. He signed that one-year deal in Dallas to kind of reprove himself again. $3 million. Yeah, he did well. 82 points, 30 goals. He's an unbelievable player for the Dallas Stars right now, as you know, they're continuing their walk through the playoffs. But Matt Duchene, again, free agent at the end of the season. He's 34 years old. He's 5'11", but again, he's a left-hand shot. His face-off percentage is very good. 54.2 in his 2 years with Dallas, 53.4 on his career. And when you're looking at Matt Duchene, Jesse, look, his name's been coming up a lot lately because he does fill that 2C void in a similar vein. Again, he's not close to the player Crosby is, but in terms of the age, like older guy that you see more of as a stopgap 2C, he fits that bill. I'm not necessarily sold on Duchene again as like, you know, any kind of long-term fit, but again, if he doesn't decide to go back to Dallas on a cheap contract, this type of player, this type of impact is something we'd be looking for.
I mean, there's so many questions, Josh. Like, are we going to wait until like July 1st? Is Kent going to make a move like right away, July 1st? Or is he going to maybe wait a little bit of offseason and see what kind of pans out? Are we going to go for that kind of veteran 2C like a Duchene? Or are we going to go for a young gun? I'll tell you, if Duchene is not coming to Montreal, it's not because Montreal is not interested. It's probably because he just wants to sail out into the sunset over there in very sunny Texas. Because, I mean, like, this guy, what he's doing this year, point per game type of guy, the experience that he's getting in the playoffs this year, all of this really matters. And you can definitely make the argument, like, it would be easier, I think, Josh, like, I think there's a higher chance that the Montreal Canadiens are going to get a veteran 2C because that's what's going to, like, easier to get. That being said, is like you can make the argument that maybe kind of a young gun that can kind of grow with the team. But like, you know, I think a vet is easier and there's probably the, you know, kind of the experience. It's definitely going to be a big plus considering this young team that we're bringing them to here. So a very interesting name, of course. The match, you might be kind of two ships kind of sailing the night just because he might want to end out his career. But in terms of the profile and player we're looking for, kind of for that stopgap, as you mentioned, like, would be a phenomenal player for the Habs.
Yeah, and you never know who's going to be available in the future, right? Situations change, different people are made available, and if there's no one that the Habs really adore in terms of, you know, making a good trade with a good price or bringing in a free agent down at a good number, someone like a Duchene, if, again, this is a big if because he'll probably end up still back in the States somewhere in Dallas maybe, but if he is interested in Montreal and you get him for 2 or 3 years, it's not that bad. You look at who's available later, you could ship him out later. There's a lot of options, but like you said, Jesse, like we said in the intro, there's so many questions as to which direction we're going. I know you guys are probably not sold on Duchene. In terms of production, hard not to be, but in terms of long-term fit and style for this team that's continuing to build for the future, I don't know, but we'd love to hear your thoughts. But look, speaking of the future, Jesse, we got to dive into what the NHL released today, and talking about offer sheets, this is one of the hottest topics around the league. I mean, any team is talking about this because offer sheets are ready to run wild. Even Jeff Gorton himself said that he believes more offer sheets are coming, and the new tiers were released today by the NHL. And the biggest thing I wanted to note here, Jesse, is that you can offer a player a $7 million AAV contract, and the only thing is a first and a third round pick if you get them. So that to me is that threshold where there's a lot of good players. I mean, we're hearing guys like Marco Rossi out of Minnesota. Someone like Noah Dobson will probably fall into that next tier of 7 and 9.4, but with a lot of offer sheets probably coming, and Montreal being one of the only teams in the NHL that has the draft capital to give an offer sheet in any tier at all. You'll see Montreal's logo on all of these. This is courtesy of Puckpedia. We can give an offer sheet to any of those tiers because we have the picks available. Not every team does. How do you think this affects Montreal moving forward, Jesse? Because, like, look, again, I don't know if Kent Hughes and Jeff Gorton want to, you know, have bad relationships with other teams because that's one of these things we always hear about in offer sheets. I don't necessarily even really believe that that's going to be a big problem. I'm just excited to see how Montreal can navigate this brand new framework with some very interesting number changes here.
For sure. And with the cap going up, more financial flexibility for these teams is going to lead to more trades and more offer sheets. So stay tuned, folks. Of course, like
Yeah.
this is going to be a very exciting summer for transaction. I say this because it's not just going to be that typical route of the trades. Like we will see some offer sheets a little bit more this offseason where teams find that sweet spot where it makes sense in terms of compensation for the team, but also for the player as well. That being said, there still is kind of that risk kind of inherent with those offer sheets there. We've obviously seen that kind of not work out the best in the past, but like we're obviously going to be seeing a lot more of it going forward. So it'll be very interesting to monitor, right? Because the Habs are one of those key teams in terms of, maybe with Carey Price's contract coming off the books, all the picks that they have, where they're going to look at all the avenues that they can to really improve their team. And they're in a very unique position to take advantage of that.
Yeah, and I don't think, again, like we say all the time, I trust Kent Hughes and Jeff Gorton, and I believe that if they feel an offer sheet on a certain player is the best course going forward, why not go for it? Again, like, is it likely that the Habs will go out offer sheeting left and right? No, I think it'd be a calculated risk, but you never know. There's stuff that we don't hear on the inside, right? Talking about the Islanders, Noah Dobson. Would they match it? Probably. They have some money coming off the books. Marco Rossi, maybe too small for Montreal. Maybe you go after a trade, but all these, Mason McTavish, right? There's so many guys that could be offer sheeted. Not saying Montreal will do it. I'm just saying, Jesse, with these new numbers, being able to offer up to $7 million and only just a first and a third round pick cost, the more avenues are open than ever. So leave your thoughts. Will Montreal be going after an offer sheet? Let us know down below. It's very exciting. But back on the note of finding another center, Jesse, there was an article from CCM Joel that I will link down below, and they named some very interesting names, some out of Vegas and some out of Utah Mammoth, which is the first time I think I'm actually saying that team name live on the air here. But they gave a very interesting reasoning. Now, Utah has a lot of centers. They've been playing a lot of centers at the wing, and one of their young guys is Barrett Hayton. Now, they say in this here, now, I maybe if anyone knows any Mammoth fans, you can confirm this. I don't know if he's really considered a letdown, but we'll get into this. One player who could be intriguing is Barrett Hayton, 24 years old, left shot center, 6'1", 200 pounds, drafted 5th overall in 2018. He's considered a letdown in Utah. I don't know how true that is, but yeah, for sure, drafted 5th overall, you'd maybe hope for some more production. Many expect him to blossom more quickly. At the start of the season, journalists were writing that this was his last chance. Now, last year, he didn't play that many games. It was 30-something games, and he only put up 3 goals. This season, though, bounced back. First 20-goal season. He had 19 a couple of years ago. Jesse, he's 24. He has some good underlying metrics. 16 minutes a game. He's 6'1". He's pretty big. And you know what? He's also pretty darn good on the faceoff dot with both Arizona and Utah. 50.8 on his career. 54% a career high this past season. I don't think he is the 2C we're looking for. My thought on Barrett Hayton is if you can get him and his $2.6 million cap hit for 1 year before he becomes an RFA to be a Dvorak replacement and you give him a shot on the third line and you kind of look at how you can sign him going forward, that's where I would like Barrett Hayton. I don't think he's the 2C that maybe some people are saying, but what are your thoughts on this guy?
I've been a fan of this player, like from his character perspective, at least since we saw him at the World Juniors. He gets injured against Finland, comes back though, plays against Russia in the gold medal game, still finds a way to tie it. Like for me, that stuff really matters early on in his career. And I was kind of surprised almost to see him get off to a little bit of a slower start, but he's really kind of picked up pace there. I don't believe again, that he has that established track record, which I've been such an advocate for, of when we're going to get our 2C right this time, of really making sure that we're bringing a player that we know year in, year out is going to be able to produce for us at a 2C level that is looking to make the playoffs. That being said, the Montreal Canadiens, for their 2C, they're only going to bring in a guy that is good on the faceoffs. I feel like Jeff Gordon, Kent Hughes, they've addressed that as also a slight point of weakness as well on this team. This is something that they're not going to compromise on. This matters a lot. Some pretty good size there as well. There's a good chance that he ends up probably being a good player. A lot of players, it takes them a little bit longer, but we've seen some exciting things from him of late where there's some indicators he might step up. So this might be a good player for Utah going down the road. Be interested to see how that pans out. Again, I think even with a kind of the young gun, as we've alluded to, you still want to see a little bit more of a track record, probably considering how big of a move this is going to be to kind of get right and feel like you don't need to kind of go back and really do this one again. Mm-hmm. That being said, very interesting player going forward, and for me has some strong qualities, on his corner.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I do wonder if Utah would even want to move him. Again, that 20-goal season, maybe to them, they're also like, okay, let's just keep him and see what happens. Maybe Nick Schmaltz is more likely to get traded, who is a bit older. I think he's almost 30, if not 30 already, who does have a good track record as well. Right-hand shot, I believe. But, Hayton, he's interesting too, Jesse, because look, in 60 games in his first full season in the NHL, he had 84 hits, followed by 83 hits in a full 82 games the next year, followed by 31 hits in a full season this year. The hits are going down, even though he's a big player. So there's some interesting markers there for Barrett Hayton. And like I said, I mean, if Utah were to move on from some of their centers because they have a logjam, because they're like, listen, we want some other younger guys, we wouldn't mind getting some draft capital for the future for Barrett Hayton. It's not a bad idea, but like you said, you want to get the 2C right. I don't see him necessarily as the 2C. Could be a stopgap until we get someone better, but in my mind, $2.6 million, low, like almost half the cap hit of Dvorak. I think he could come in and be a nice replacement there. But let us know your thoughts on all these guys down below. There's so much coming out every single day, but unfortunately, that'll have to do it for this episode. If you enjoyed, leave a like, comment, but most importantly, subscribe. We are so close to 21,000, and just wanted to thank you all for being here every single day. I'm Josh Gosse, my co-host, Jesse Poirier. We'll catch you in the next one.